That's not supposed to be on.
Thank you for the applause, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome to the show.
My bad. I thought I had that off, but apparently no, I did not. But welcome back to Perception Theory podcast, where we perceive people's theories and pretty much dismantle them.
Piece by piece.
It doesn't mean you can't have an opinion. It just means if you don't have the facts in front of you, well, you might get lambasted here.
That is correct.
Is this camera off? Doesn't it seem like it's way off to this?
I think so.
Oh, like
hey, Mega Dog.
Mega Dog. Let's move it over.
Yeah, we need to go your way.
Which is opposite of what that is. Which is so weird. All right, that's a little too much. How's that?
That looks good.
All right, we'll go with that.
All right, we're going to go with this. So welcome, everybody. Mega Dog, thank you for joining us. This week, actually the past 2 weeks have had a lot going on in the news politically. And the topic that we're going to tackle today is an interesting one. It's like an onion, and it has layers, and the more you peel back,
the more they stink.
Yeah, exactly. And the more questions that you actually have. So this week we are going to talk about Joe Biden pardoning his son, Hunter, which has been all over the news. The way that I kind of look at this is it's like Watergate, but with a twist.
Raspberry twist.
Raspberry twist. So there has been pardons throughout the history of presidency. You had Ford that pardoned Nixon for the Watergate scandal, speaking of which. And then we go all the way back to Andrew Jackson, and he pardoned the Confederate leaders and soldiers as long as they swore oath to the United States. So, and I'm sure there's plenty of other ones that are out there, but these were the two biggest ones that I thought was relevant to this. And then now we have Joe Biden, who has pardoned his son, and I guess the Democrats aren't looking at putting his face up on Mount Rushmore anymore.
Which I don't. Was that ever a discussion? Joe Biden. Okay, look. Joe Biden undoubtedly is at least in the top 3 of the worst presidents we have ever had in this country. Top 3.
Now, why would you say that?
Why would I say that? Well, why wouldn't I say that? I mean, it's like, so because all right, so the economy, he inherited a excellent economy. F that up. We've seen prices on gas. Speaking of gas, let me ask you a question here, because this has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But so I took my daughter up to White Marsh because she had a John Hopkins appointment up there. What the hell's with y'all's gas up there? Well, that shit was like I paid $3.90 something. Down here it's like $3.20. What are they doing?
Did you pay at the mall? Like, was it outside of the mall that you went to?
Well, it wasn't out. It was near, but it wasn't like.
Oh, it's insane.
I'm like,
yeah, it's insane.
It's almost like $1 more. I'm like, what the frick is that shit?
Well,
what are y'all doing up there?
They can, because it's like the last gas station before 95. So that's how they get you.
Oh.
I paid. I want to say it was $2.83 the other day.
At.
This was at, what the hell are they?
No, I mean, what area was it?
Oh, it was in Perry Hall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I stay away from that area.
Okay. I was just saying, anyway, let's get back on topic. But anyway, I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's a whole.
Why is it so? Now, if I was in the middle of D.C.,
oh, you're screwed.
I would assume paying that kind of money. But we were just in White Marsh. I mean, we weren't like. Anyway, all right. So anyway, so you talk about gas. They talk about how they've approved all of the drilling permits, which they have. But they also put in a moratorium that says until we figure out this is what's best for American citizens, we're not allowing the drilling. So yeah, you approve the permits, but you still didn't allow anybody to drill.
Right.
For oil, so or natural gas.
Technically gold.
Yeah. So that's bullshit.
Right.
The economy was worse. A foreign policy is a freaking joke. There's not been. I mean, you saw like when Trump attends some kind of either some kind of summit or whatever, he's smack dab right in the middle, right in the front.
Right.
Do you see Biden?
No.
Biden was 3 rows back, and it's like nobody wants to deal with this old fart. And plus he was falling asleep during the summit. So the point is, I mean, and we know Biden's not running the White House. He's not running the administration. We
Right.
know that for a fact because he doesn't even know where he is. We need a pardon for if he did nothing. What's he need a pardon? Well, we're going to get into that because that is the funny thing about this whole point.
Yep.
Because, well, we'll get into it, but the Biden administration are going 180 degrees from all the shit that they've always talked about that is important, that they stand for, that should be the law of the land, and they just basically just said,
we're out.
fuck it.
Yep.
We're going to do whatever the hell we want. So we'll get into that. That's why I say he's the worst president.
Okay.
And he doesn't know where the hell he is.
Right.
I mean, he's oblivious.
Well, I agree with you. And I mean, the thing of it is that the whole administration, Biden's administration, started out with lies.
Yeah.
The whole that he was saying that he was arrested when he was trying to see Nelson Mandela. Lie.
Yeah. Dude.
The worst fire in Hawaiian history, and he starts talking about how his house burned down. Lie. It was like set in, I think it was like a kitchen, so it was contained to one small area.
Yeah, it was just a little bit of it was a stove.
Right, but
fire.
It didn't touch the Corvette.
No.
Or the documents that he had in the garage as well.
The classified documents that he took when he was a senator.
Right.
That he wasn't supposed to have. But but to like piss in the face of the Hawaiian
it was
state
horrible.
and everything else when they went through all this things like, well, yeah, my house burned.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Who cares?
Shut up.
Right. You're the president of the United States. He inherited high inflation.
Wrong.
And the border crisis was completely out of control when he came into office.
Wrong.
Which we all know.
And speaking of the border crisis, Tom Homan.
Jeez.
Holy shit. This dude is a badass. And he is like, look, we're going after everybody. But they're like, everybody's going to they're going to pluck babies out of the crib. He's like, no, we're going after, he said, right now we're going after convicted criminals.
Right.
Who have a record, who are here legally, ones that are supposed to have a court case.
Right.
And have jumped. And the 300,000 kids that the Biden administration has lost because they brought them in, they were unaccompanied, they released them to a quote unquote family member that they had no idea who they were, didn't vet them, and they were supposed to keep track of them. Now they don't have no idea where the kids are.
Jesus.
Anyway, so
yeah. Well, I think the other
worst president
in history.
Another one.
So with him getting ready to come into office, I think his argument too was the fact that, well, you're taking children away from their parents, you're separating them from the family. Well, his point is that if someone gets arrested for, spousal abuse, what happens? The state takes a child away until everything settles down and they can make sure that this isn't going to happen again.
That's correct.
So it's the same exact thing, except these are migrants that have come through illegally.
Right. With no documentation to say, that's my child. Or, hey, we're going to see her aunt or his aunt in New York.
Right.
There's no documentation that said that is even a family member.
Right.
So it's like, bruh, you can't prove any kind of. Well, as a matter of fact, they start finding out that some of these kids weren't their kids. The people gave them to because they wanted them a better life, but they give them with these people because they said, "I'll take your child with me and get him over to the U.S." And they're using the child for them to get in.
Right.
So,
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I think the other interesting thing here with Biden pardoning Hunter is the fact that he cares more. He didn't hide the fact that he cares more about his son than he does the country.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's, North Carolina, Florida, Tennessee. Where was he? What has he done for them? But he's going to pardon his son, which we'll get into in a little bit as to why. I just think it's funny that if Hunter's last name wasn't Biden, he'd have been gone by now.
Oh, he'd been way gone.
Absolutely.
He'd way gone. Okay, let me just flip this real quick, and I don't want to spend a lot of time. But if Hunter's last name was Trump,
oh shit,
where do you think he'd be right now?
Yeah,
he'd be 6 feet under the damn jail.
He'd be in Guantanamo.
I mean, it's ridiculous, is what it is. But, yeah.
So, Megadog, you wanted to know what he needed. What he needed.
Well, I think he's being sarcastic.
Oh, wow.
If he did nothing wrong, what does he need a pardon for?
That is true. So let's go into why he needed pardoned.
Why did he? Right. And I just want to start off real quick by
speaking of did
Jean Paris, the White House spokeslady, said that Americans overwhelmingly supported Biden's pardon of his son. Well, she got it backwards.
Yeah.
More people, the majority of the people said no, he shouldn't pardon his son because his son is, well, they didn't say he's a piece of shit, but they said, because he shouldn't be pardoned for the crimes that he did, especially when most of the crimes that he committed were basically, or the excuse or what his defense was basically the fact that my father is the vice president.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Well, they were also federal indictments as well,
which is really what the president can only do.
Right.
But there and well, that was brought up as a kind of a gotcha. Say, well, he's only pardoned him for federal. Well, that's the big.
Right.
That's the enchilada. That's the most of the enchilada of the issue.
Right.
Is his federal charges. I mean, nobody really cares about his little state or whatever little bullshit.
Right. And I mean, you're talking what, almost 11 years that gap of pardoning is actually going to cover?
Yeah, it's covering January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. Not only does it cover those 11 years, it doesn't only cover what he's done. It covers what he will or could possibly be prosecuted for based on these in the future.
Correct. So I'm sure there's going to be more pardons that are going to be coming out for Joe and his family. And there's also some pre-pardons that are going on. Dump this gun in the trash. Okay, but sell out the U.S. Not okay. No pardon. Well, that was one of the things that I agreed with also is the fact that, you were convicted, you were found guilty of these charges. So just because you're pardoned doesn't mean that, hey, we're done. It never happened. Thanks for playing. So they're still out there. And I just hope that there's still more investigation that continues on to see what they uncover. So some of the things that I had found is that there were 10 family members that profited from the shakedown, created shell companies that sent money to 10 different family members in small incremental payments. And this was for, I want to say it's anything under 10,000. That kind of.
Yeah. But they racked up a
Oh,
shitload
yeah.
of money, but you said it was all just small payments.
Absolutely.
And I do believe that was from Burisma.
Yes.
Well,
that's
some of it
correct.
from Burisma, some of it was from the Chinese energy company
Correct.
as well, which they don't seem to name.
No, it's funny.
Which I
how
find that
happens.
was funny.
Well, he was, what was it, like four? It was like 4 or 5 different companies, like energy companies that Hunter was involved with.
And he has no education in energy. He has no experience in energy. He's never even worked for an energy company, not even pumping gas.
But he's highly educated.
Yeah, so they put him on the board.
Right.
Really?
So,
Really?
I guess, I guess the thing of it is here is that you have Biden on one hand saying that, no, I never knew anything about this, and I deny everything. But, I kind of find it hard to believe that, hi, my name is Hunter. Oh, what's your last name? Biden. Like, as in the vice president Biden? Well, yeah, as he's kind of like kicking the rock a little bit, just trying to show that he's being modest. I mean, I find it very hard to believe that nobody connected the dots and Hunter didn't say, oh, by the way, Daddy is the vice president of the United States. Yeah, I don't understand. The other thing is that Jim Biden, who is Joe's brother, he took out some loans with no interest. He didn't pay anything on the principals. So what did he get these loans for? What did he get these loans for? And the other thing is that, with Joe Biden, people needed his assistance. There was, I want to say it was the government in the Ukraine that was kind of starting to do some hard digging in Burisma. And they needed the government to kind of lay off of him. For what? I don't know.
Especially the federal prosecutor.
Absolutely. And that's kind of when all of a sudden, we're good.
Well, that's when Biden came out and admitted it in public on video in front of a panel that he told the Ukrainian government, you either do something with that prosecutor or you're not getting the relief bill of like, was it $12 million that we were going to give you?
Right.
We'll just hold on to it.
Right.
And that
What are you gonna do?
Nobody nailed his ass for that shit.
No. I just, it's just funny. It's actually kind of sad that anything like this is allowed to happen, but we all know that it does. This is what is called a form of log rolling. And basically it's reciprocity, which, hey, as a senator, I'm going to help you get this bill passed. Mm-hmm. But I want you to remember that.
And what they said is the big thing that they always accused Trump of, which they have no evidence for, but with Biden, it is painfully obvious is quid pro quo, which basically, hey, either do this or we're not going to give you the money, or you do this and we'll help you this. And Biden, as a vice president, did this, extensively.
Right. So it just makes you wonder who all knew about this.
Oh, nobody knew about it.
That's a secret.
Yeah, it didn't happen. That's not what happened. It just.
Yeah,
he was just doing his vice presidential duties.
Right.
Bullshit.
Yeah. Then you have that Jim and Joe actually lied. Joe obstructed obstructed the investigation. Joe knew what was going on, selling access to enemies all around the world, and meanwhile, his son is picking up, bags of money throughout the world, and they're sinking it into these loans.
And he's picking up bags of money from the same players who the U.S. has an issue with.
Right.
Because look, even when everybody's talking about how Russia invaded Ukraine, right? Which is bullshit on its own. They, I don't agree with that. But what people don't seem to remember, or even, I don't even know, that Ukraine was one of the most corrupt countries. They had so many quid pro quos, so many, what do you call it, when things aren't, it just, corrupt. They had some of the most corruptional government of anybody for a long time. And it's like, bruh. I mean, that's why Trump didn't deal with them. When Trump was in office, they had said something about they felt that maybe Russia might do something, whatever, and Trump's like, well, Russia's not gonna do anything when I'm here.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, you guys are so freaking corrupt. I can't give you any money because I don't know what the hell you're gonna do with it.
Right.
So Trump said no, because I don't know if it was Zelensky was in there or somebody before him. But anyway, they went to Trump for it, and Trump's like, nah, no. So, but again, I'm not saying that Russia should have invaded Ukraine, but my point is Ukraine was corrupt, and I don't even know if maybe this is maybe another show, but so Zelensky is not using the funds that were given him in necessarily the correct way. They got his wife's over in freaking I forget wherever they're in Switzerland or whatever it was. I forget the country or the city name. But she's over there living it up. She's buying. They got her on video. She's doing shopping sprees. She's out on a freaking like $1 million apartment over there, and she's and he'll fly
back and
forth with her.
Yeah, that's not free.
No. And so, so again, I don't agree with the invasion. However, he's not exactly helping his people out either. So there's a whole show for that.
Hey, Dynamite, what's going on, brother?
Dynamite.
Dynamite.
All
right. Sorry about that.
Dynamite.
So I guess the other thing is, the prosecution, was it really political? Do you think it had anything
of Hunter?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was political. So I mean, so let's just break that down just a second, right? So during this 11-year period, this is when Hunter was appointed to the board of the Ukrainian energy company Burisma. We all know he had no experience, nothing whatsoever. So a Delaware jury in this past June, found he was guilty of lying about his addiction to illegal drugs on a disclosure. Here we go. On a disclosure form to purchase a firearm. So the trial actually included hours of embarrassing testimony about his addiction to crack cocaine and his reckless behavior. So he was charged with drug possession. He was also charged with lying on a federal form for a firearm. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought the Democrats were huge on gun control and implementing many, many, many more gun control laws to stop this kind of stuff, right? Well, here we got Hunter is circumventing that process of not even the new laws, the laws we have on the books, and that's fine.
Right.
We're going to pardon that.
Right. And if you remember, that was Tim Walz and Kamala Harris. That was one of the things that they were running on too. It was gun reform, correct? Is that correct?
Yep.
So yeah, that came right out of the Democrats' mouth. I just find this whole thing interesting. I did find the statement, and this is actually on the statement from President Biden, and this is from WhiteHouse.gov. It's a short little reading. I just marked off 2 excerpts. Charges in his case came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress investigated them to attack me and oppose my election. Now, this is coming from Joe Biden. And then the other one I have is, for my entire career, I have followed a simple principle. just tell the American people the truth. And again, this is coming from a guy that his whole entire career is nothing but lies.
Right. So when people brought up these charges against Hunter, was that from the state level or the federal level?
Well, these are all from the federal level.
Federal level. And who, might you ask, who is in charge? So of the administration, his own Justice Department brought these charges up against Hunter. Well,
right.
they were pressured to do so because rightly so.
Sure.
But he said it's politically motivated. Well, it's your Justice Department that brought the charges. Your Justice Department, who you've weaponized with other people, they brought the charges up with your son.
Right. But see, it's different. And then he continues on to say, here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice. So isn't this the same shit that they were pulling on Trump in his first term? Weren't they doing the same thing? It was like a witch hunt. Anything they can get him. If he, took a piss in the bathroom and splattered on the floor, well, they were trying to indict him. The hush money, we all knew about that. It's not illegal to pay hush money.
No, and especially it was paid way before then.
Absolutely.
Now, that came out that he did that, and I guess their issue was that it didn't come out or should have come out earlier. But it's like, okay, if you're going down the moral path,
right,
then look at look at Clinton,
right,
look at JFK,
right.
I mean, who was, I guess, thought as one of the best presidents we've had. He was a man whore,
right.
So I mean, it's just, but it's like it's Biden's own Justice Department,
right?
It wasn't some third-party counsel, special counsel. It was your Justice Department,
right? But you're going to talk shit about him and beat him up because it's your son. Now, I guess the other question is, hey, Rodri.
Hey, Rodri.
I think, okay, so my biggest question is, I don't have any children. You do.
Mm-hmm.
So if something like this happened to your son, it doesn't have to be, this high of an issue. Just something simple like, I don't know, taking a candy bar from a store or something like that. Would you do everything in your power to kind of get him out of this trouble?
Nope.
Why not?
I'd make him take the candy bar back, and then pay, and then maybe he had to work off some of the issue, even though a candy bar was only like $1.
Right.
I would have him work off more than that.
So it's about morals.
It is about morals. Just the fact that if I still love my son or daughter if I did that.
Right.
The problem is, I would say by getting them off, they're not learning any life lesson or any morals or ethics.
Right.
So I think you're damaging the child if you or the person or whatever. It doesn't have to be the child.
Sure.
It could be whatever age they are.
Sure.
By not owning up to consequences. Now I don't think you should be, burned at the stake.
Right.
And I'll stand by you 24/7 about anything that goes on. But you need to own up and own the consequences of your behavior.
You effed up.
Yeah, you effed up. Now you gotta, Now I've effed up in my life, and I paid the consequence. Now I didn't have, a dad sitting there like, son's gonna be all right.
Right.
I fucked up, and I did some jail time and stuff, and I had to pay the price. But, once I did, I understood that was a punishment. That was consequences for my behavior and my decisions.
Right.
So then I was like, okay, I don't want to go down that road again. So, yeah, but if you're constantly getting them out of stuff, they're never going to know what the consequences are. Right?
Right.
And they're never really going to understand when they do something good and they do something ethical and they do something morally right, and the feeling that they get for doing what the right thing is. They're not going to know what that feels either because, well, I'll just get off or whatever.
Sure, Pops will get me out.
Yeah. So you're screwing your kid both ways.
Right.
They're not learning anything on consequences and how to control and how to behave and whatever. Then you're not going to know the feeling of doing something that's good, that you're supposed, that that's ethical and moral.
Right.
And having the virtue to control that.
Sure. So, there are some people that are out there. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mega Dog.
If you need presidential pardon, that's pretty high.
That is, and that's the thing is like a lot of people are saying, well, this is Joe's looking out for his son, things like that. There's only so far, and again the example that Gary and I just talked about was a candy bar. A candy bar. So what the hell is going on here? I mean, the timing is odd. The length of time that this pardon is for is odd. I mean, there's a lot of oddities here that just don't make sense.
So the biggest issue is this is something that President Biden has denied for the longest since this trial ever came about. He said he will abide by the decision of the courts, and he said I got videotape of like 50 million times. He said he will not pardon Hunter,
right? Because
he said he'll let the courts decide it, whatever, and he will not pardon him. That's where everybody has the issue. Is because people, I mean, Trump pardoned people. Presidents pardon people all the time.
Right.
Right? But the fact that he wanted to stand on the moral high ground to say, I am not going to do that with my son because he's my son. If they convict him of certain things, he's got to pay the consequences.
Right.
And he said that over and over and over again. And bam.
Right. So
he did. And the timing is because he lost the election.
Right. He knew.
He didn't lose it. He got pushed out.
Right.
And then he could see what he wanted, or what he knew was going to, or what he thought was going to happen, or was he guaranteed was going to happen that Kamala was going to win.
Right.
She was going to pardon Hunter. That was the plan.
Right.
But she lost. And then nobody thought that she was going to lose.
Right. When it's funny that nobody thought she was going to win.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
So, yeah. Then there's this whole unraveling of the laptop, which I thought was pretty interesting. So, for those of you that don't know, which I'm sure everybody that watches probably does, there was a laptop that Hunter Biden was actually trying to retrieve information off of the hard drive that the computer was basically shit. So he took it into a shop in D.C., and a gentleman retrieved the information for him, and Hunter never came back after a year. I guess there was a stipulation or whatever that the rules were for this guy that, hey, if you don't come and pick up your shit in a year, I basically can not
own it or trash it or do whatever with it.
So as he's going through this laptop, that's when things started to come out.
Well, no, that was all Russian. That was all Russian propaganda.
Yeah, it was all fake news.
It was a Russian propaganda. Not only did you have all of the liberal media saying this, you had the director of the CIA, Brennan, who's a piece of shit, say it. You had director of the DNI, Clapper, saying it, or signed off, or they signed off on a paper saying, yeah, we agree, we think this is Russian propaganda.
Right.
And I forget there was somebody else that did. And they all knew that was bullshit. They all knew it was bullshit. That they weren't telling the truth.
Right.
But they just walked off. No big deal.
Until Mr. Weiss. Is it Weiss or Weiss?
Yes, Weiss.
Came into office.
He's like, oh, what y'all got going on, man?
Mm-hmm.
That's bullshit.
And I believe this is So my understanding of the whole thing is that they had a plea deal with Hunter, and then he was like, nope, not going to do it. So it was a couple weeks later that he decided that, you know what, yeah, we're going to do this. And when it went up in front of a judge, the judge was like, whoa, hey, what else you got here? Like, what else is going on? And this is when that unraveled right in front of everybody's face.
Yep.
So
so you have that. You also have that Hunter Biden also pleaded guilty to criminal charges of failing to pay $1.4 million in taxes, which from some of the money he got from Burisma and from the China insurance energy company, he spent $1.4 million on drugs, sex workers, and luxury items, and he failed to report any of those taxes. So he was scheduled to be. So he was convicted of that. He was supposed to be sentenced on December 16th for that. Now, the funny thing is, we're talking about not paying taxes and this and the other,
right?
Which I know that Biden always talks shit about. That Trump don't pay taxes. Trump uses the codes, the tax codes that are in place.
Right.
Congress can change that anytime they want.
Yep.
But the problem is that also in 2021, Biden administration planned to hire 87,000 new IRS agents because because of the Congress passed the American Families Plan, which was part of the Inflation Reduction Act, which was bullshit. Which was $80 billion in new funding, and the IRS said over 9 years we're going to hire 87,000 new agents.
More money.
So instead of taking the 80-some billion and helping, instead of doing more audits, they could use taxpayer services to help them file correctly. They could do services like that. No, we're going to hire more agents. And so then they said, well, only $3.2 billion would go to taxpayer services, despite the IRS answering only 18% of the calls that it ever received in 2022.
And it's funny because these agents that were going to be onboarded was basically they were coming in to look at the everyday people, their taxes, to make sure that we weren't trying to skimp, a couple $1,000s where, you're talking 1.5 million from Mr. Hunter. Now, the interesting thing is that so the taxes were repaid. So the 1.5 million was repaid by an anonymous person.
Yep.
So, again, then you have to go back to the Jim Biden where he was taking out loans.
Mm-hmm.
So who was this anonymous person, right? I mean, it's kind of obvious who the anonymous person is.
Well, Roger, I guess they could be tax deductions. I guess it all depends on.
And it's entertainment, I guess, for your business.
Yeah. He probably could have deducted it, but he just didn't. He didn't file the taxes.
Yeah.
So he might have been able to write off some of that stuff. Maybe, especially if he's talking about well, this was before Burisma, because he probably could have said, oh, entertaining clients, that's all part of the our advertising and promotion funds.
Jeez.
He could probably.
Wow. It's a $5,000 hooker. Congratulations. Thanks for joining.
Mega Dog's like, hire more hookers.
Yeah, no shit. Wow. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's just this whole thing. And I just feel like the deeper this rabbit hole goes, the worse it's going to get. So I guess the next question is for Hunter Biden, is there a way that this pardon could backfire? And if so, what is it?
So the one issue is that anything that is connected to this, he could be pardoned for.
Okay.
If additional information comes out and evidence comes out that Joe Biden was involved in more of this than just the Burisma stuff, then Hunter is not pardoned to testify against that. so he could be subpoenaed and forced to testify against his father on anything that they find other than that. Now, Hunter is pardoned. Now, that being said, again, the whole plan was, and it's not like we have inside information, you could just look at common sense. The whole point was for Harris to become president, and that she would pardon Joe. Well, she wouldn't pardon Joe, but she would cover the blanket of him and his family and anything that's coming out of any of this shit.
Right.
But so now that she didn't win, he has to take it upon himself to pardon. He can't just say, well, we're pardoning everything that has to do with me. He's got to try to pardon Hunter. But then again, if additional evidence comes out other than what's with Burisma, because both of these stem from Burisma,
right,
then Hunter can be subpoenaed to testify against his father if they find out there's evidence that he took money from, like, say, the China Energy Company.
Right.
That's not covered in this. And a couple of other things like, and I think some of the payments that Jim got some were from Burisma, some were from the Chinese company. This doesn't cover those payments either.
Right. It's the shell companies that all this went to.
Right. So,
yeah, it's a slap in the face to the Democrats, I believe. We look at, Joe Biden and his legacy, which is bullshit. But I feel that this is a slap in the face, a throat punch to the Democratic Party. And I think that, in my opinion, this is why that everybody is kind of covering this up as quickly as they possibly can.
Yeah, they definitely. And like I said, I don't have a problem with the Democratic Party as a whole. It's the leftists that have infiltrated that were having the issue. But now you got Joe Biden, who was a establishment member of the Democratic Party. And I think anything that the Democratic Party, and I'm talking about, moderate Democrat, not the nutbags on the left. Just like I wouldn't defend the nutbags on the far right.
Right.
But anything that they have tried or would have tried to build as part of their party platform now is completely gone.
Right.
Is completely destroyed. So now, unfortunately, whatever, for the Democrats, they're going to have to kind of rebuild their
facade.
Yeah, they're going to rebuild who they are.
Right.
From the ground up again.
Right.
And that may not be a bad thing.
Right.
Especially if they get rid of the far leftist bullshit out.
Right.
But you found in this election there was a big split between Democrats and the left. And that's what you found in this election. Is the Democrats were starting to say, okay, we don't want the far left as part of our party anymore because they're taking us down a road of failure and stuff that we don't want to support anymore.
Right.
And we thought it was okay, oh yeah, we're good, yeah, go ahead. But now you've taken over shit and you've completely destroyed the party as a whole. So I think it's time that they're going to have to reinvent themselves.
Right.
Establish who they really are and not let the far left infiltrate the party, with the whole transgender shit and all this other stuff. Because not that I have a problem with that, but that's what they became defined as.
Right.
So, and Joe just kind of flip-flop back and forth, didn't know where he was, and he did not establish a clear message or focus as to who the Democratic Party was.
Right.
And, and they only have to blame themselves. Pelosi, she was the one that pushed him out.
Right.
She's also one of the ones that pushed out Bernie Sanders, right? Now, Bernie Sanders was like the main dude for a while.
Right.
Then they pushed him out because he was a little bit too radical because of, he had a little bit more of a socialist kind of ideology. But they got rid of him. Then you're left with what? You're left with Biden, and then as a child, whatever of that, then you got Harris.
Right.
And Pelosi, she's one of the ones, so she screwed it up. That she's part of the issue. There's a bunch of the other Democrats that are part of the issue when they should have just stuck to their guns and said, let's bring in some new blood,
Right.
knowing that Biden was gone.
Right.
Mentally. I mean, he doesn't even know who he is. And obviously we know he's not running the White House. It's kind of more of like the Obama administration who's actually running the White House, his people. But they shouldn't. But that's the road you took.
Right.
That's the decisions you made. And the American people's like, I'm not falling for that shit. No.
So, just out of curiosity.
Oh, what's up, Dutchie?
Hey, what's up, man? Let's see here.
The more the laborers are turning their backs on them, the radical left they are becoming.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. It's like, so like I said, I didn't necessarily have a problem completely with the Democratic Party or whatever. The problem is they were allowing the far left to become too entrenched into their party and was defining what the Democrats were. I mean, I'll admit, when Bill Clinton's second term,
Mm-hmm.
I voted for him because he had the Republican Congress. He had learned from his first. Now I had to take the ethics and stuff and throw them out the window. I said, what's best for this country right now as far as the direction it needs to be taken?
Right.
At that point, Bill Clinton kind of had his shit together at that point. I mean, he still was. I still think he's a fucking scumbag. But as far as policies and everything else, and so he implemented a lot of good stuff in his second term.
Right.
Right. So that's where you got to separate that bullshit. Right. So I don't have a problem, quote unquote. I'm actually a registered conservative, and I definitely lean towards Republican side as far as values. But I don't necessarily have a complete problem with the Democrats. It's the far left that's infiltrated that has now defined the party to something that they weren't before, and now nobody wants. Or I won't say nobody, but a lot of people don't want to have anything to do with it.
Right. So, I'm just after doing this research and having this conversation that we are now. Is it possible that maybe the whole election, the whole Kamala Harris thing was a red herring to kind of throw off everything? And hopefully with all that going on, because the media was all over that, and then just kind of have this kind of swoop right underneath of everything and be covered up because the media is looking the other way?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think they screwed up.
Okay.
I think that they thought that with Kamala, whatever, that she's biracial. They thought that they could key on that.
Right.
The fact that she was a woman, they could key on that. The fact that she was already vice president, but again, they thought they could key on that, but which was a wrong move because the economy sucks so bad.
Right.
That right there, I think was probably the nail in the coffin, because she could not define what the difference between her and Joe Biden was,
right,
as far as what policies, because that was, and I will admit for her that was a double-edged sword, because you're included in that, and or if you were not part of that, they said, well, why didn't you influence Joe?
Right.
You're the vice president, for shit's sake. So that was a tough. So they should have just picked somebody else completely. I think they had to get rid of Joe. I just think they waited too long. Like, I think once he won this term, they should have said, okay, he should not and should say, I'm not running another term.
Right.
From the get-go.
Right.
But they did. They hung their hat on him. You know, they put the money on that horse, and I think he deteriorated more than they thought he was going to. Now, I thought he kind of deteriorated a little bit. I think he was a little bit low when he started.
Right.
But he definitely went down.
Well, that whole Trump-Biden debate, I think, kind of showed America what is really going on behind the scenes. Just another hypothetical, too, is we obviously know that Biden wanted to hang on, and obviously wanted to run for a second term. Do you think that maybe this whole thing about pardoning Hunter may have been like some sort of a deal? In other words, like, listen, if you get out of this, right, we're not going to back you, so you need to get the hell out of running for presidency. You got to be done with it. If you step down now, we'll let you pardon your son Hunter before you're technically out of office. What do you think about that?
I would say no. And the reason I say that is because he's on the chopping block no matter what he does.
True.
So if he pardons Hunter, he's out there on the island himself without the party.
Right.
So he's screwed. If he was expecting what they probably said that the deal probably was, which I guarantee, you drop out, Kamala goes in, she'll get elected, she will pardon Hunter. That I think was the deal.
And then when he saw the
then when she lost,
right, he had no choice.
He's like, okay, well, I got only a few more weeks before Trump's, inauguration. I'm losing my power, in say 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it was. I'm gonna pardon him. So I don't agree he should have pardoned him, but to be honest about the whole thing, the Democrats used him for their intentions, and then threw him out at the back threw him out the bus,
right,
and then ran over him because now he had to, which I think he had always had the plan to pardon Hunter, just thought that Harris would do it because she would get elected.
Sure.
When that didn't happen, and I think the Democrats are, and I'd say not all but the major players, Pelosi and Schumer and some of these other people, threw him out to dry.
Right.
And say, oh no, well, if you want to pardon Hunter, you got to do it yourself.
Right.
So then so Kamala was distancing herself from him. Pelosi and them were distancing themselves once he did, because remember, he went to the damn beach.
Right.
And you didn't hear from him at all when she was elected or when she was selected.
Right.
He dropped off the face of the planet. You hardly heard from him at all.
No.
So I think the top Democrats screwed him over royally, and hung him out to dry.
Yeah. So I wonder. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily they said they could. I think I think their issue was, you drop out, Kamala will pardon him.
Right.
All right. That's what I think. That's what I think the plan was. Now I think they should have, if that was going to be the plan, they should have done that way ahead of time.
Right.
They should, like I said, from day one. Well, not day one, but they should have said, okay, he's not mentally competent. They should have just said, had him announce, hey, I'm going to be a one-term president, and then I'll fully, and they should have picked whoever it was, not Kamala,
right,
but somebody else, an up-and-comer, and say, I'm supporting so-and-so, and I'll get behind, but after my presidency, I'm going to get behind he or she 100%, and that's the road they should have took.
Right.
Took it.
So there's pre-pardon things that are being thrown out there. Can you do it? Can you do a pre-pardon for someone?
You mean before they're convicted?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I guess you could wipe away the crimes. I guess, yeah. I guess.
What was the name of that movie with Tom? Oh shit!
I guess you could do that.
In Minority Report.
Oh, Tom Cruise.
Yeah, remember Minority Report,
mm-hmm.
where they were arresting people before they committed a crime? So, only in the case of national interest can you do a pre-pardon. Broad the broad preemptive pardon is not always valid, and it's never been tested in court.
Well, there's a lot of shit during this administration that has not been tested in court. The simple fact, like when Kamala was chosen, she didn't go through the selection process.
No,
that is actually against campaign rules.
right?
All right, or how the election works in the U.S. Now, how that was allowed to happen, I don't know. Now, again, I don't really give a shit because she lost anyway. But the point is, if the Republicans had done that, if they just said, "Okay, yeah, he's dropping out, we're gonna pick Ed," they're gonna whoa, no, you got to vote on that shit. You can't just pull somebody out of your ass.
Right.
But they did. So there's a lot of stuff that was not. That they didn't scrutinize over that was against either election law or even, I think even some of the federal laws, they just kind of let, whatever.
Right.
So.
Well, excuse me. Apparently, it is Christmas time, and Joe is handing out pardons. So the names that are being tossed around are Liz Cheney, Anthony Fauci, and Adam Schiff.
I definitely heard about the Anthony Fauci. Well, what would they pardon Liz Cheney on?
Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. The only thing I can think of is that anything or anyone that is involved in the whole Trump, convictions and everything like that.
Yeah. Like the big thing with the biggest one I have an issue. Yeah, you can go ahead and pardon. I don't know who gives a shit. And what was the other one?
You got Fauci and Schiff. Now,
no. So those two, fuck no, because especially Adam Schiff, who was head of the House Intelligence Committee, he straight up lied on multiple occasions in Congress, which is. And they do say that's perjury because anything that goes on in a hearing, even if it's not something necessarily you're testifying to,
right,
but you say that goes in the congressional record, if it's untrue, that's perjury. That's a lie. He's lied multiple times, Adam Schiff has, that said that he knew or he had information or evidence of certain things which he did not have to sway the media and the American people to go against Trump. Here's my big thing. Trump was inaugurated the first time,
right,
back in 2000. He wasn't even, or he was elected. He was not even went through his inauguration yet. And you could look this up. Go look it up. The Democratic Congress voted to impeach him for nothing
before he even was
before he even went to his inauguration in 2016. 2016, I think it was. So that right there tells you guys are playing with a completely different set of cards. Y'all got the deck stacked. He wasn't even sworn in yet, and they voted to impeach him for what? What the? So, right. But Adam Schiff was one of them.
Yep. So
Adam Schiff is a piece of shit. He needs to go down. Anthony Fauci is another one that should not be pardoned. Anthony Fauci has lied multiple times, has covered up certain information that he knew, and the CDC even said he knew it, that he knew that where the strain could possibly have come from,
right?
Was Wuhan. The CDC even apologized to the American people for going through this shit, and you can go look it up. Go on Google. And you can find where the CDC apologized for all this shit, that they said, okay, well, we kind of misled based on information we thought we had. And blah, blah. No, you didn't.
Right.
You fucking knew what was going on. But Fauci still to this day holds that same bullshit lie. And they've caught him a million times lying.
Right.
Where he said, I never said that we should shut down the country. And they got him in multiple interviews and even in Congress saying we should shut down, we should close down for the spread of COVID, blah, blah, knowing that wasn't what was the case was.
Right.
Now, I don't want to get into it because I know Rodri has a different viewpoint on it. And I will say, Rodri, that's why we didn't decide to go with
the RFK Jr.
RFK Jr. and or the COVID vaccine booster stuff. We didn't want to get into that and have a big.
Well, it was out of respect too.
Well, that was the thing, but the thing about it is that there has things come down, especially from Fauci, that lied. The CDC lied or misled, or the CDC did not divulge quite a bit of information that they had,
right,
that would have swayed or could have determined how, I guess, the U.S. react, or I guess U.S. the world, because I'm sure that would have gone to the World Health Organization.
Sure.
But they held that information back. And so there's things that could have happened or whatever, but now they've come out, and the CDC has come out and apologized for holding that information back. So, I mean, there's a lot of shit go around.
Right. So, I think the other thing, too, is I guess this is an ethical question, is with the pre-pardon. I kind of look at it as when you go to court for a conviction, but you plead no contest, which would mean, yeah, you guys got something.
It means I'm not admitting.
Right. But
there's probably enough evidence that you could convict me.
Right. So that's my question with these pre-pardons. If you were offered a pre-pardon, like, with Cheney, Fauci, or Schiff, do you take them? Like, do you want yourself to?
You're going to have to, especially if you're Schiff or Fauci, because I mean, Liz, whatever she said or did or whatever, I'm sure that could be circumstantial in some other ways.
Right.
But these two, they have on video and under congressional record, contradicting their statements or outright lying, saying, well, this, that, and the other, and it's like, well, I didn't say that. Well, yes, you did. We got it on record.
Right.
Those two are going to have to take it, because if let's just say Trump's administration decides that they were going to file a lawsuit or whatever, or convict them of something, there's video evidence and there's recorded evidence.
Sure.
They would not have a leg to stand on. So, yeah, they'd be screwed.
Yeah. So going back to the 80s, ironic, don't you think?
Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? But I think it even ironic. It's just like you said. It's just a slap in the face.
Right.
And again, I'm not saying, and everybody says, well, Trump does stuff too, and I'm not saying that Trump's a
He's
freaking
not
Boy
a saint. Yeah.
He's not a Boy Scout. But when you stand on a pedestal or on a platform, and you shout from the heavens that this is what we're about ethics and morals, we're about uniting the country, we're about gun control, we're about people paying their fair share. How many times you heard them say that shit?
Right.
And Biden's son, right, circumvented the gun laws, but that seems to be okay. And he did not pay his fair share over $1.4 million worth that he should have, recorded or filed. He didn't.
But it was paid.
But it was paid by somebody else. And so I'm saying, now Trump is who he is.
Right.
And he, now whether you like him or you love him, or whether you hate him or you love him, what he says, and people say he lies all stuff, he might exaggerate on some things, but he'll just say what it is.
Right.
But if you stand on a platform saying, this is what I hold to be true, these are my ethics and my morals, and then you go and you do a 180.
Yeah.
And this is what you based your platform on.
And then you wonder why you didn't make it to a second term, or why the Democrats were not elected to a second term. And I think it's funny, I actually saw something this week. that I think a big portion of the people don't understand is that the people that voted for Harris, and I should say the Democratic Party, the people that voted for her were the ones that do not like Trump. So they didn't,
they were never Trumpers.
Yeah, they did not vote for the Democratic Party because they wanted the Democratic Party to win.
Correct.
They just didn't want.
They voted against Trump.
Exactly.
And even some Republicans voted against Trump. They didn't vote for the Democratic Party.
Right.
They voted against Trump. And if you got nothing to stand on, and you're voting against something instead of for something,
right,
people are going to call you out every time.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't stand for something, that means as the saying goes, you'll fall for anything.
Right.
And when they had these Republican men for Harris, I'm like, yeah, bullshit. Matter of fact, I saw all of them. I wouldn't classify them as men, but whatever. That's fine.
All right. So what we know now, theoretically, Hunter is not even a felon because there is no final judgment, nor will there be, because of the way that the pardon and everything works. So he'll never be labeled as a felon.
Yep.
Pleading guilty and being found guilty, then being pardoned, doesn't make this go away. So regardless of the fact of whether, special counsel says, okay, screw it, we're done, this isn't going to go anywhere, or if it continues on, it's still not going to go away if it stopped right here, I guess is the whole point. Then you have David Weiss that is doing a CIA move, right to pardon but not to expunge, I think, which is one of his quotes that he came out with is, there is a right to pardon, but there is not a right to expunge.
Which they don't give a shit.
No.
As long as I'm staying out of jail, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. You can say whatever the hell you want to.
Yep. I'll just say it's politically motivated or some bullshit, whatever else.
Right. Right.
So here's a question. Do you think that the pardon, let's take it all in one big ball.
Okay.
Do you think the way that they kind of treated Biden, they kind of like, kind of set him up on the pedestal, whatever, and riled around him, and then kicked him off the pedestal, and this and the other, with them kind of letting him fly out in the breeze,
right,
and pardon Hunter on his own. The fact that they were trying to run Kamala Harris on the same administration that has, high taxes, high interest rates, bad foreign policy, screws up this and the other. Do you think that this was a huge blow to the Democrats? And if so, how long do you think it's going to take to recover from this? Because then the reason I'm asking that is Republicans got the House, the Senate, the presidency.
Right.
Right. So they got carte blanche, they got the full Monty.
Right.
Do you think that this is something that they're going to feel ramifications for years or a decade or whatever, or do you think it's just a small blip thing? Democrats will flip it around and whatever. What say you?
Well, I'm going to say that this was a heavy blow. I also think that with the cabinet that Trump has picked out, and some of the things that we've seen, you've got Ramaswamy, and you've got I can't remember his name. Tesla.
Elon Musk. I will say that they are saying they're saying his cabinet, his administration is one of the most diverse.
Yes.
In history. But go ahead.
So I think that there's going to be a lot of elimination that is going to start to go on, and I honestly believe that as a nation, as a public, we are going to start to see things that we kind of knew what was going on, but now can be proved. I think as far as the length of time, I don't know. Obviously, we know that we're going to be in for a ride, a nice little roller coaster ride for the next 4 years. Who knows? I think. What the hell
is that? Me?
I think that's you. I think Shapiro when it came down to looking for the vice president, I believe that Shapiro was definitely the top guy. And I have a feeling that the Democrats were like, no, you're not. You don't want a part of this shit. I think he might be the next one that's going to run for the Democratic Party. And then depending on how things go these next 4 years, I would probably say that you're definitely going to have, oh, God, I can't think of his name, the vice president, or will be sworn in as the vice president. Why can't I think?
Oh, J.D. Vance?
Yeah. I think he's going to be the next match for, what is it, 2028 now?
Yeah.
So
do you think he'll pull in the next president? So as vice, so like you say J.D. Vance, let's say he pulls in DeSantis as his running mate or whatever. You think so that he's going to pull in the next?
I think that they're going to pull in the next president.
So they're going to run this train.
Correct.
For as long as till the wheels fall off.
Correct. And you know, let's just face it, the Democratic Party it's done. It unfortunately is done. I am registered as a Democrat. I switched aisles years ago.
So do you think that it's beyond recovery, or you think they'll just have to, like we were talking about kind of before, do you think they're going to have to kind of redefine themselves? And then obviously I would assume probably a little bit more moderate.
Yes.
More to the center left.
Correct. Yeah, they're going to have to rebuild. They're going to have to reface. You know, it's apparent that with the Democratic Party, they don't like change. They are into taxing, and you know they say that they're there to help us, but they're not. They can't relate to us. They've never been able to relate to us. You know, and it's just one of those things that I don't know. It's going to take them a long time to build back, to get trust again in America, in the United States of America. I mean, if you think about it, look at the way that everything voted out. I mean, you know, Trump won by a landslide.
He won the electoral college and the popular vote.
Right.
So, Rodri, I know that I forget what they call that over in England, the Democrats. I think is it the Labor or is it the
Labor Party?
Is it the Labor Party? Because I think they have a Conservative Party over there, which
yeah.
is the Conservative, but I think the Labor Party. So how does I think it's the Labor Party, whichever party it is over there. So how have they come out on, say, elections and or popularity with the people over there in the UK? Are they still kind of running pretty solid?
Yes, Labor.
Are they running pretty solid and they kind of are good to go? Are they having some of the issues that over here the U.S. is having? And I'll just be honest. Pretty much 90% of what's going on with, or how the Democrats over here have lost ground, is based on their decisions of the things that they've done. So if people were just fed up with, okay, you know, we have Democratic ran states, Democratic ran cities, and those cities have not gotten any better.
Right. They've
been Democratic cities for 60, 70, 80 years, and they've gotten worse.
Yep.
So I'm just curious. So how does the, okay, yes, you said Labor. So how does the Labor Party fare in the UK? Are they good to go? If people are kind of relating to the Labor Party as opposed to, I think it's the Conservative Party. I think it is.
I want to say it is a Conservative Party.
Yeah, I think it's called. So are they aligning with the Labor Party or you know, as far as that, or you know, how they relate?
Sure.
Are Labor and Conservative neck and neck? Are they kind of really,
right?
You know, and Dutch, I'm interested in where you're at. I don't know what the parties are called where you are either. As far as, you know, left and right, or Conservative and Labor, or I don't even know. Same question though is in where you are, Dutch. And I think he said Dutch lady lover, but I don't know if he's Dutch. He might be Dutch. He might be in some. I don't know where he is. Well, let me know where you are. But is it the same thing?
I think we're being catfished.
Probably. It's not. I've known Dutch for a while, so if he is, he's good.
He's somewhere over there.
He's somewhere there. So it's the same thing with where you are, Dutch. Is it the same thing? Does which political party kind of has the ear of the people over there, and are they kind of? Is it kind of even? Is it really a big issue? So they want an easy election for them. They are pretty right wing for a labor movement, despite what the far right say. They have a big majority. 14 years of Mr. Johnson and bollocksing things up. As far as I know, as a Dutchie, Labor in the UK won because the Conservatives messed up. See, and that's what I think was here.
Right.
I don't think. Well, I think Trump's message as an economy, because Trump ran before, and when Trump was president, things were much better economy-wise. But the Democrats for this cycle, they fucked up. They fucked up royally. So I think it was more of a fuck up because there's a lot of other people that still don't like Trump.
Right.
But they voted for him because they thought it was a better situation.
Option. Right.
So I think again in the U.S., I think the Democrats fucked up. But I think they probably could have been all right if they would have just established something early,
right,
and kind of rode that through. But I'm interested in what Roger said. So in the UK, so Dutch, are you in the UK? Are you Dutch, but you're living in the UK?
What are you, Dutch?
Yeah, Dutch, what are you? Go back home. Where are you from? Yeah, I'm just curious. I don't know. I that's what I'm kind of assuming, but we'll see. But I'm interested in what he said. So he says, so the Labor won an easy election, but the Labor, he said, what I'm getting at, the Labor Party is pretty right wing for a labor movement. So they're more center left.
Right.
But I guess he says they jack stuff up along with the Conservatives. We have a different system here. We have about 20 political shit.
Jesus.
From far right and very conservative Christians, who are now the largest at the moment, to the far left
Party for the Animals.
I guess animals like PETA and shit.
Okay.
So I'm assuming. No, I actually live in the Netherlands.
All right.
So the Netherlands have 500,000 political parties.
Man, that's crazy.
So how do you vote? How do you know? How do you?
Yeah, that's like.
How do you
crazy.
determine like who's really
right? That would drive me crazy.
Epica.
That would drive me insane.
Yeah, Mega's going back to music. And anyway.
So yeah.
That is crazy. I would not. Now maybe you might say, well, if you had at least a few more political parties, there might be something that aligns better to you, and you're not stuck with just two people.
Right.
So there might be some validation in that.
Right, but 20?
Yeah, that I don't.
Wow.
How are you going to differ from each other, except if you're the far left and the far right?
Right. Now
that I understand, but everybody kind of like that's in this section.
Yeah, is that like an over exaggeration of 20 political parties? That's crazy.
Yeah. Or are they you just have more than two and it kind of gets a little bit confusing. They're all about animal rights, even so far that they are struggling to feed maggots to chickens because what the rights of the maggots.
Oh my, what? Oh my God. Wow.
The maggots have rights.
I guess now they do.
Oh shit.
Oh man.
Damn, Dutch.
My right is to only be eaten by brown chickens.
Oh my gosh.
That is insane.
That is insane.
And we thought we were bad.
We thought so.
Oof.
I think we're all right. Well, shit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that just tells me that I know that the political system over here in the U.S. is pretty effed up. I get it, right? But what that tells me is I guess other countries are not that much better.
Right.
I think politics are politics.
No matter where you go.
No matter where you go. And it's just who aligns at least in what they're running their mouth about. I don't know if any political or any politician really feels that connected to either, Republican or Democrat, whatever it is. They just have their own agendas.
Correct.
But it's what comes out of their mouth, because that's the only thing you can gauge them on, unless you actually see them in action before.
Right.
Like I like Trump, not so much for Trump himself, but the policies that he implements, because he's energy independence, secure borders,
right,
strong military. Because you can see what happens when the military is not strong.
Right.
Everybody just goes and does whatever the fuck they want.
Well, that was
because I think you should be able to have a strong military, which to me doesn't necessarily mean you need to get involved. It means just a threat you can get involved. People are going to back off stupid shit.
Right. Yeah, I just think it's funny when, speaking of military in particular, is when you go back and you look at Clinton, you look at Obama, and then you look at Trump, and now you look at Biden, and now we're going back into a Trump. Like, it's always like, okay, we're going to build the military up. Nah, we're going to take that money away. Oh, we're going to build the military up. Nah, we're going to take that money away. And I think this last trip with Biden, I think it was done as a smear tactic for Trump, is to say, no, we're not taking our time. We're just going to pull out. So all the vehicles, everything that was left over there to help protect that country is now held by a militia.
Yeah. The Taliban has tons of military equipment.
Right. Our military equipment.
Like top-notch military equipment.
Right.
It's like, fuck, shit.
Right. And even though Biden was told not to do this, let's do it slow, he decided, no, we're going to do it my way. Fuck Trump.
Yeah. Sort of gone back. So the weird thing about that, Roger, and I think everybody I would like to see people come more, I'm not a fan of the far left or far right, but sometimes when you get into more of center, I think that's where people need to go. But unfortunately, that's where you kind of get the establishment.
Right.
Because, like, if you ever watch American politics, U.S. politics, and they're sitting there in the Senate or whatever, and they're like, you guys want, dirty air and dirty water or whatever, and like, you guys want to give every scumbag a free ride, whatever. Then they go back in the back and they're like, chummy, and they're like, hey, tell you what, you give me this, I give you that, blah, blah, blah. So that's the establishment. That's one of the reasons why I like Trump, is because he is not part of the establishment. He's got money. He's got this. He's got that. He doesn't need their bullshit. Right. They need him. All right? So Trump is on the thing where he runs a business that these people need, because that's where you get the lobbyists, and then that's where they get their money when they're making $200,000 a year, and all of a sudden they come out as, multimillionaires.
Right.
It's bullshit. So I think everybody ought to come from right or left to center, but try to stay out of that freaking establishment shit, because that's where everybody starts buddy, and they're full of shit, and then they're just scratching each other's back. And in the American people, or whatever country you're talking about, that's where they get effed.
Right. And see, the issue too, the only thing is by coming in, like with Trump is coming in as a Republican, but he's kind of like outside the realm. He's not like Joe Biden, like Obama, where they were in Congress and they worked their way up. Well, now that he's got everything under control, just like his first term, everything was a fight. And like you look back at, I mentioned Watergate with Lyndon B. Johnson when he came into office. He was the most successful president within his first year of getting things pushed through Congress. And he was the political party. So that's interesting too. And that also goes with the log rolling, where I'll do this for you now, but you're going to remember this because I'm going to need to call in a favor. That's the establishment. And I agree, that's what Trump wants to get away from.
So he said they kind of gave up with the military, not completely, but didn't. But now that the Russians are expanding, now they're freaking out, and Now he's like, problem is they need to build factories to actually produce the equipment and ammunition, and not even mentioning they need to train somewhere.
Yeah, don't forget China. China's moving on in.
Yeah, where's the Netherlands going to train?
Right.
Oh, you can come over U.S. here. We'll help train you, whatever. But yeah, I get it, and I agree with Roger. He's like, authoritarianism. Now, see, that's kind of where we're almost getting with the Democrats, and I'm sure that Roger's going to disagree with me on this. That's almost where we got with the Democrats, because they held the Senate, they held the House, they held the presidency, they held the media, and they held the unions.
Right.
They held the Department of Education, the
DOJ. They held everybody.
It wasn't the Department of Education, but the teachers unions.
Yes.
So they held everything. So it was almost like a authoritarianism, where they had everything and they were just pushing. They had the freaking FBI. I don't know if you know, FBI was targeting families in schools because they weren't going along with the transgender agenda, and they were actually saying they could possibly be labeled as terrorists.
Yep.
I'm telling you, there's an FBI. You could go look it up for yourself. So they had the whole business. And so it was almost like they were controlling every aspect of life.
Fascism,
yeah, basically kind of what it is. And so it was like, well, shit, dude, this is just so. Now the coin is flipped. So now, well, except for the media and shit, Trump doesn't have the media, but he does have House, Senate, and the presidency. Oh, yeah, so the Supreme Court.
Right.
So we'll see how that turns out. Now, then, coming up, we can discuss something as things come up, and whether or not when they make a move or something, we could discuss whether or not that's kind of almost like a dictatorship kind of move,
right? Or
does it actually benefit the American, the people, whatever else?
That's a good question.
So we could definitely go over that as we go through the presidency.
Now, there's two things that I'm going to request for the new presidency that's coming in. First off, Doge, they have three things that they're looking at, and as far as I'm concerned, the most important thing is eliminating daylight savings time. What a shit show.
Do you explain to them what Doge is? They might not know what Doge is.
Oh, Doge.
Douche?
No, not douche, Doge. So it's two outside people, multi billionaires, that are actually going to come in, and their goal is to find money that is being recklessly spent within our government. They are also going to be looking at positions.
Yep. And
they're going to look at waste. Now, again...
Which we have a lot of in our government.
Well, yeah, but if you listen to the left, no, it's all... We have to spend that. We have to.
They've already uncovered some crazy ass shit of, like they're running. And we're getting along, but they're running a project in China for some. I can't remember what it was for.
Was it dog farts or something like that?
Something. It's crazy, and it's like, what
hyena farts.
Fuck are we doing? And everybody thinks it's a joke. It's not.
No,
they're actually doing this shit. It's like, bruh, or they spent like $80 million on UFOs. Okay, let's just say there are UFOs. All right, who gives a shit?
All right, we knew they were there.
Yeah, we're trying to get out of a economic
crisis
here.
Yeah. Well, then you had I forget how much it was, but they did something a couple years ago about spending money overseas to find out, or for transgenderism.
Yeah.
And I forget where the hell it was, but yeah, Rex spent government money.
Yeah. I like what just saying about math being racist. Yeah, that was a claim that they came up with, that math was racist.
Yes.
I'm like...
So the first thing is, let's please, for the love of God, get rid of the whole time continuum bullshit.
Yeah,
get rid of that.
Get rid of that shit.
And the other thing, I just forgot what the other thing was.
Well, they said, was it spending? They're looking at they were looking at duplicate departments,
Yes.
like departments of the government that were doing the exact same thing.
Right.
I hope they whack. Look, you could whack the IRS except for a couple other people. We get a flat tax, no tax shelters, no loopholes, no nothing. Flat tax, 17%, 18%. Everybody pays the same.
One page. Just make it one page.
One page. IRS gone, just
Right.
like that, and go find somewhere else to work. I don't give a shit.
Right.
But that's like $800 billion or something.
Well, I think a lot of that,
Shit.
like that's been discussed, is can be done on a state level. Doesn't have to be a federal level.
That is correct.
So the other thing that just came to me too, and this is for President Trump, and this is dealing with the media. Get rid of the fucking View. Get rid of them.
Oh yeah, get rid of them skanks.
MSNBC.
Well, they're actually writing their own. They're actually putting it on the cup. Their ratings
God, get rid of them, please.
have gone so far in the toilet that they're like Joy Reid
Oh my God!
and
It's like
Rachel Mad Cow.
it's like every other episode on the View. She's reading a retype or a redo
or
what the hell do they call it? A correction of some
correction.
sort.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's just like Jesus.
where she's got to apologize because she was completely wrong.
Right.
Especially Sonny Hostin, whatever the stupid ass bit.
Right. Now, again, we all have the right to, spout our opinions, blah, blah, blah. But it's a waste. You're spreading bullshit.
Yeah.
But the sad part about it is people keep watching them. So it is what it is. You stop watching them, then maybe they go bye-bye.
Yeah, Roger, I'm with you. I hate math too. Not because it's racist, because I hate it.
Well, the new math now is 1 + 1 = 1.
There you go. I hate math, but anyway. Dude, I could go freaking 5 hours on this shit, but we're at an hour and a half. We keep we keep saying we're gonna keep it to an hour.
Right.
But
we're getting good feedback here. This is
That's
nice.
true. And I like to go back and forth because I know Rodri is more of a left-leaning person.
Right.
And I like to, and when he comes up, when he explains the kind of what's going on in the UK and everything else. Plus, I like Dutch. We talk about, I like to go what's going on in other countries.
Sure.
Because I think that, I know that a lot of times what the media perceives of things that go on in the U.S., a lot of times it's bullshit.
Right.
They pull some shit out of their ass saying, well, this is what's going on. No, that's not what's going on.
Yeah, you gotta report on something.
I guess. Well, I mean, so many of these news agencies are going to survive because Trump's now back in office.
Right.
Because they're just gonna spend time just bashing the shit out of them, which is fine. Do whatever the hell you want. I don't really give a shit.
Right.
But don't consider yourself a news organization.
Yeah, but people still watch Fox, gents, and you're absolutely right. But don't get rid of Fox Business. I love that channel.
Yeah, Fox
Good
Business.
stuff.
Yeah, Fox Business. I got food. Totally useless now. Oh, I guess the Mega Dog's gonna take a nap.
Uh-oh.
I think he left because the other foot is shorter than the other.
Yeah. Bing.
But yeah, and people still watch Fox, but Fox does some shit. But I'm telling you, compared to LSD,
Mad Cow.
man, they are just
Off the rails.
nuts.
And Morning Joe, that's another good one.
Yeah. Oh, did you see they met with Trump, and then now
Oh,
everybody's
yeah.
like pissing them off?
Oh, yeah, they were forced. We had to go. Well, he's really not that bad of a guy. We actually had a good time. We
Now
met a
their
lot of
people are like, oh, how dare you?
Right,
What are you supposed to like? Be like a child?
right,
And just like I'm not playing with anybody else.
right,
I'm not saying you got to support the man.
Right.
I'm not even saying you got to agree with all his shit.
right.
But at least get an understanding of what's going on.
Right,
Whatever.
report the news as it is.
Well, we used to have Fox TV for series and stuff, but they changed the name.
Yeah.
What's it? What is it? The Netherlands? What? Snow Fox now? All right.
All right, peeps. Thank you for the input.
Yes.
Um,
That was good. That was good stuff.
Absolutely. I know we've had fun. I hope you all have had fun too. It is Christmas time, and it is the holidays. However you celebrate.
And I know the Netherlands do, because isn't that where Saint Nick was from? Wasn't he like Netherlands?
Something like that.
So so I know y'all celebrate Christmas for shit's sake.
Yeah. Yeah. So we want to thank you guys for joining. We have, is it one more show before Christmas? I think it is one more show before Christmas.
Well,
if I'm not mistaken.
Here's the problem. Because I think next Sunday.
Well, we're getting together next Sunday, so that's out.
Then we're getting it next Saturday.
Oh, that is right. It's Saturday.
But next Sunday is
the 22nd.
Well, I'm talking about the 15th.
Oh, the 15th.
The 15th is my wife's family's Christmas. So we would not be here next week.
But on the 22nd would be following every other week.
Oh, yeah.
So we're fine.
We're not doing every week. What a duh.
Not yet, but it may be coming.
We may be coming.
It may be coming.
Obviously, we all celebrate Christmas in the West.
Yay, Christmas. So, again, thank you all. This is a difficult time of year for certain people that don't have families.
Correct.
You know, things like that. Please check on your neighbors. Make sure everybody is good. Your friends at work, family, cousins, anybody. Just check on them. Neighbors, please do. We want to thank our firefighters, the armed forces, the police, everybody that puts their life out on the line. They sacrifice time with their family. They miss their children growing up, those special events, to put their lives on the line for us as American citizens.
Yeah. And Roger is a social butterfly that you are. You make sure you go around to all your neighbors and take them a fruit cake or something and make sure they're okay.
Oh, a fruit cake. God, I hate those
Or whatever.
things.
I know, too. Or invite them out to the pub and buy the first round.
Now, there you go. Absolutely.
And some crisps.
That's right, crisps. All right, people.
Or a biscuit or two.
Or a biscuit or two. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. If you miss our next episode, please, happy holidays, be safe, and we will see you. For those that are joining us, we're going to see you on the 22nd. Until then, be safe, enjoy life.
It's like you said, this time of year, take care of one another. Because there's going to be some people out there that don't have squat. Now, I'm not talking about Christmas gifts. I'm just talking about just some human compassion and maybe spending some time with somebody.
That's right.
So, all right.
All right. Peace out,
We are
everybody.
out. Let me find my button.
Button.
Out.
See ya.